All right, it is that time once again to hit the books, part of the Hammer Betting Network, alongside the man, the myth, the legend himself, Joey Knish, producer extraordinaire Zach Phillips. I am merely Brad Powers. In today's episode, a special episode of Hit the Books, we are continuing our conference preview series, and we're wrapping up the G5 conferences with the American, which the last 5-6 years has been the best conference, typically at the G5 level, but they have lost a lot of their best programs here in recent memory. We'll see which program ends up taking the mantle. Is it a Tulane? Is it a Memphis? Is it a UTSA? Is it a South Florida team that seems to be on the rise? We'll tell you here in a minute. But first, we got some breaking news as far as Hit the Books. We are very happy and pleased to report that we have a sponsor, a new sponsor for Hit the Books. You might have heard of them. It's a sports book. It's one of the top sports books here, in the legal sports books here in the United States, that being FanDuel. Obviously, it's one of the industry leaders, to say the least. It has one of the best products and prices. Lots of great college. Specifically for this show, I'm excited because lots of great college football offerings. They're oftentimes first to the market in college football. I can tell you they were first to the market when it comes to all these win totals that we've been talking on a weekly basis during our Hit the Books weekly shows. Lots of fun type of bets. They have just recently posted some awards in the college football markets as far as those bets. It's easy to use. You don't have to worry about the payouts. It is FanDuel, our new sponsor, new partner here as far as Hit the Books. But I know we're a college football show. We're still a couple weeks away from the college football season starting. And last I checked, there's still some sports going on. So in the meantime, before the college football season starts, Major League Baseball is getting us through these dog days of summer, and FanDuel's got you covered. They're hooking up all customers with a booster bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day. For the rest of the summer, you can take your booster bonus and bet on everything Major League Baseball related, from home runs to strikeouts and even the final score. Plus, with FanDuel, you can combine your bets in a live same-game parlay for a shot and an even bigger payout. So head on over to FanDuel.com and start racking up some runs in the sun. I do have to read this disclaimer. You must be 21 plus, 18 plus in D.C., and present in select states. Optional and requirement, wage requirements apply. Bonuses awarded as non-withdrawable bonus bets and profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including bonus expiration. See terms and conditions at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit RG/help in Colorado, D.C., Illinois, Iowa, Kansas, in affiliation with the Kansas Star Casino, Kentucky, Louisiana, Michigan, New Jersey, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Vermont, Virginia, and Wyoming. You can call 1-800-NEXTSTEP or text NEXTSTEP to 53342 in Arizona, 1-888-789-7777, or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut, 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland, or you can visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net in West Virginia. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in the lovely state of Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NEW York or text HOPE New York in New York. Knish, what's happening, my man? Last of the G5 preview series we got here.
Last of the G5, and babe, this might be the D. I know we like the Sun Belt, but this conference might be the deepest and the most talented of the G5 conferences. So we got quite the race in, I think, this conference in terms of who could win it. A lot of teams, I think, towards the top that I'm a little bullish on. I'm going to be honest with you here. So could go a number of ways, but this conference, this is going to be one of the fun ones to see play out. Where I think a couple of the others, look at the Mountain West with Boise, you look at Conference USA with Liberty. I think this one has a number of ways that could go at the top with a lot of talent on some of these teams.
I agree with that, and there's a reason why I bet 4 different teams as far as conference futures. It is one where I think there's a possibility of being there a decent race, at least compared to the Mountain West and Conference USA, like you mentioned, where it's one team and everybody else. Let's talk at the top, though, where I think most people's power rating is going to have this team number 1 in their conference, that being Memphis, who comes in with Seth Hennigan at quarterback, returning for what feels like his 10th year as a starter. He's a guy that started for 3 years. He stayed at one school, and now he's going to make it 4 for 4 here. It's something that's very rare in the transfer portal days. It's a Memphis team that I think is better, even though only 10 returning starters did a really nice job in the portal. I thought bringing in some key talent, including Tennessee's leading tackler. Memphis, unlike a lot of G5 programs, actually has money. This is in the weeds, but they have a $25 million NIL deal with a company called FedEx, which is located in Memphis, Tennessee. So they have some money to work with. It's showing as far as the talent they were able to acquire. The hang up for me is this. It's quite simple because I do like the schedule and the fact that, you're just looking for pure power ratings. They're going to be favored in probably 11 of their 12 games, if not at least 10 outside of the Florida State game. The thing that worries me, and I'll actually give you two. I'm not a huge fan of the coach. Even though they're coming off a double-digit win season a year ago, he's not one of my favorite G5 coaches. And boy, if we're talking, and it seems like you like a lot of these other contenders, Knish, in the conference, they have to play at South Florida, at UTSA, at Tulane, arguably the three other best teams in the conference. They got to play all three on the road. So I think you're getting a little bit of wide varying opinions. I've seen as low as 8.5 in the win total. I've seen as high as 9.5. I got to tell you, that's a pretty big swing here. I'm betting over 8.5. I'm definitely leaning under 9.5.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, if you took this Memphis team, and I think if you dropped them in some of the other G5 you would have just a runaway favorite. And as you said, this is a team that not only brought a lot back, but went and spent the money to get Tennessee's leading tackler, Elijah Herring, South Carolina's leading rusher, Mario Anderson. I mean, they went out and got legitimate Power 5 players with some of that money and some FCS standouts as well. So, I mean, it had a core, and they added to it in a significant way. So I think no doubt they're the most talented team in this conference. As you said, though, Ryan Silverfield doesn't really – I mean, this is a Memphis team that their MO has to really not be either to not show up or to lose some games they shouldn't have or to have, a horrible defensive performance in a certain game. It's just a staff and a program that under Silverfield has been a little Jekyll and Hyde. Now, maybe they have, at some point there's been programs over the year where, you load up a team with so much talent and you win on the field. We'll see what happens there. Obviously, I think they've got player to player, the best team in this conference. Do I want to bet them at this short of a price, though? No, not for me. And the under is a little juicy on the 9.5, I have to tell you.
Yeah, I hear you.
I just don't want to lay that much juice on a 9.5. But even though they've got some of the, that I don't think, the North Alabama and Troy in the non-con, I could see them winning 10 games again. I'll say that. So it would be, I would need a flat. If you gave me a flat 9, I think I'd lean towards the over, as you said, with the 9.5. And maybe, with all that juice on there, maybe it gets back there. But I think 9-3 is probably the most likely outcome with the potential for 10-2.
Zach, I'm going to ask you to bring up a menu that we haven't talked in the other G5 conferences because I think it's more applicable here since we like a lot of teams. But sometimes if you don't like the conference odds, let's slip on over to the playoff board where you might get a little bit juicier as far as the odds to make the playoff. Because likely, the winner of this conference in most years is going to make the playoff. They're going to be the highest rated G5 representative. So if you want to switch on over to the playoff board, I'd like to look at Memphis's number there. That is a number that I have bet as far as them to make the playoff, the college football playoff, Memphis. There you go. Plus 550. Okay, not a great bet. Okay bet, not a great one. I was hoping to see like maybe a 7.
Yeah, that's what I was too. I agree. If things go right, though, this is a team. I mean, also they've got the schedule to do. I mean, they've got an opportunity versus a Florida State team that obviously they'll be a dog against. But if you win,
don't have to win it if they lose by a touchdown or 10 points and look good. That's a positive.
Yeah, I think that type of, as you said, if you can get that type of performance and run the table, I think regardless of what would happen in some of the other G5s, if you're 11-1 in this conference with this schedule, call it 12-1 with the conference title game, I think they'd be the favorite to get in the playoff at that point.
Agree. Let's talk about some of these other teams we like, particularly in this team, UTSA. I really like the coach. I can't believe he's still here. Jeff Traylor, who's done a phenomenal job with UTSA. This year's team obviously loses their all-time leading passer, and Frank Harris, who's been banged up. It's not like he's been completely healthy the last few years, so some of his backups have been able to get some experience, including the backup won the bowl game after they're down a couple touchdowns against Marshall, was able to rally them there. 12 returning starters. They've had a couple guys in trouble with the law for them, so that's a little bit of concern. One of their wide receivers is also a little bit injured. So I would love this team and some of the prices early in the summer as far as those offseason markets. I'm not as wild right now about this team, but I certainly think they deserve to be in the mix here. Traylor has won every season that he's been here, and not in the weeds, but they got a couple of guys up front, a couple of 300-pounders on the defensive line that you just do not see at this level. Legitimate guys that have experience, obviously have the size. And then you look at the schedule, and boy, they get Memphis at home. I don't see Tulane on the schedule. I don't see South Florida on the schedule. It's much weaker strength of schedule, even though I know Texas is in non-conference, but a much weaker strength of schedule than the other contenders in this league. It's one of the main reasons why when FanDuel posted this at 7.5, I told you to go over.
Yep. Yeah, agree with that. And if I was going to place a future in the top tier of you call it.
Okay, here we go. I wrote this down. Do you like this one?
Yeah, this is the one I'd want of the top tier. That's not like a long shot. This is the one I would take, and for the reasons that you're laying out there. I think a lot of they're two of their harder games at Texas State and at Texas. Not going to matter here for the conference future. Yeah. So that 5-1, I agree with you that where and as you mentioned it, in the trenches, they just look different. You see this team lining up. They just look different than a lot of the other teams that they have to go against in this conference. They just have a size factor and a physicality that doesn't. And as you said, just losing Frank Harris scared me because, when they were at their best, it was Frank Harris running around making plays. Yes. But Owen McCown got some experience. And look, as you said, look pretty good in the bowl game, return a ton on defense, and a defense that I think could be really good. And you know what? It kind of sets up nice for them in terms of, the games that they have to play. Memphis, has to go there. And the rest of the schedule, I think, in conference schedules, pretty favorable. So, I think you could see this is a team that you could definitely see in the conference title game.
Let's do a half unit on 5-1. Zach, I have bet a very similar price, and it was you that mentioned this. I think that you have one nugget like each show that it sticks with me. And this was a couple years ago. I think it was the Conference USA Championship game. You must have been watching it because I was seeing the same thing. UTSA from a skill level was playing North Texas.
Yeah.
And it just looked differently. It looked like they were like the P5 team and the other team was the G5 team. And
I remember it.
I know that was Conference USA, but hey, last I checked, North Texas is in here. Florida Atlantic. A lot of those Conference USA teams jumped up to the American with them, and they just look different. That was something that stuck with me. That's why I still do the show. You're good for a nugget. Obviously, the chat, and I like working with Zach. So that one stuck with me. So I agree with you. I think it's still kind of the same. Rewatching some of their games from last year, they got some guys that you don't see at this level. And boy, that schedule really works out for them. I'm hoping they stay clear of the law. They clear up some of that. And I think it was Clark, the wide receiver. Yeah. Hopefully he gets healthy. If so, I think we got an awesome bet there, 5-1 to win the conference. A couple more teams here that we at least think are contenders in this wide open league. South Florida, you got to love what you saw in year one from them. They went from a team that couldn't win a game to a team that ended up winning a bowl game and blew out Syracuse in year one under Golish. And this year's team, probably even way better than last year's team, at least on paper. 17 returning starters, got as much returning experience as any G5 team in the country. A lot of upside as far as that talent. We like the dual threat quarterback. There's some talent here that he had already to work with that wasn't being utilized. Don't believe me, Potch, fire up the Alabama game from last year. That was actually misleading that Alabama won 17-3 because Alabama scored a touchdown with 30 seconds left. South Florida's got some talent to work with. Now they have some experience. It's year two. I'm not wild, unlike UTSA, about the schedule, but they do get Memphis at home. They get Miami at home. They got to play Alabama again. Now Alabama will probably take them seriously this year, but this is a team that I didn't run in the window to bet over 7.5. My numbers actually have it closer to 7, but if they take what they got from last year and combine that with the experience, this is a team very capable of winning this conference.
Yeah, they had some coaching malpractice for a couple of years under, Willie Taggart, who I know started strong, then kind of fell off, and Jeff Scott of just what was he doing down there? This is a program that should be competitive in this league because they are in a talent hotbed. And when they had, even Charlie Strong, who might have not been the greatest, coach to ever grace a football field, had this team perennially, contending in conferences and a lot of talent on their field. And that's the type of program it should be. I think Goles will get back to that. I will say he might have set the year 2 expectations a bit high with how, with how hot he came out of the gate. It's a team, again, very good year 1, obviously 7-6, and gave Bama all they could handle in that. I just don't, I think year 2 replicating year 1 would be another good step in the right direction. It's not a team that I have interest in terms of, a conference future. I think they're a little bit of a level below the top 3 teams there. And I know that, the under 7.5 has taken some juice now. I would say I probably would have leaned that way as well. I know in terms of where if you gave me a 7.5 that was more around 110, I think I'd be there. It's juiced up now, so it's a pass there. But it's one of those, as you said, I just don't think it sets up great in year 2 here for him to get to that 8 or 9 win level. I think being, going 7-5 again would be a nice year 2, and then maybe they can make the leap next year. Just think it's going to be tough with what Memphis has, what we like in UTSA, and a couple of those games that, having in Bama and Miami. It's just going to be a pass all around for me on USF.
If you hear my phone going off, there was a key injury that's breaking. So I will, let's just say, bad injury for Notre Dame today.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. I just got like 3 texts at once for that.
It doesn't rhyme with Shiley.
It's not Riley Leonard, but
okay.
It's at the position that helps Riley Leonard, and it was already the position that was the biggest weakness on the team.
Because if it was, I'd say we need to stop recording and go, I'm running to the casino. But
I'm going to talk for a while and let you get down. I would say week 1 is a no-go for Notre Dame anymore. So I'll just tell you that. Shop around see if you can find some under 10.5 on that one. That's the best advice I can give people right now. Significant injury. Let's talk another team. Let's be optimistic and positive here. Another team that there's maybe some different opinion. I was a little surprised you were a little negative about South Florida. I think I'm going to be the one that's a little negative on this team. Not necessarily the hire. I love John Sumrall as a hire. I mean, that's the guy that came in and won immediately at Troy, had 2 of the better defenses that I've seen at the G5 level in recent memory at Troy, won back-to-back Sun Belt championships in a tough Sun Belt. And again, a guy that this just tells me that Tulane's serious about football. You would think losing a guy like Willie Fritz, here we go again. Tulane's back to being, a team that can barely make a bowl game, if that, to, hey, this team can contend in year 1. I don't know if they're there in year 1. I know there's some people that like them. I'm not as optimistic on Tulane. In fact, I got an under-win total ticket in pocket, and there was a couple of individual games where I bet against them in the game of the year market. 9 returning starters. We'll see. I just tend to be, in most cases, 9 times out of 10, a little bit more pessimistic on year 1. But Summerall's already exceeded expectations and proven to win immediately. Maybe that's what people are seeing. What are you seeing when it comes to Tulane?
I'm actually, we're going to be in lockstep here. Okay. I agree. Same thing. Like the coaching hire, but a lot of talent kind of went out the window. And I think you got, double-digit transfers on offense and defense, but not one where, again, it's one of those, I prefer to see the continuity when you bring it. One thing, if he was bringing over a bunch of guys from Troy and you're able to get it, not really what happened. He does bring over both coordinators, but I think you might see, I'm with you there, a little bit of a dip year 1 in kind of where Tulane has been. Now, I think there were some better numbers out there, as you alluded to, where I think they now sit in 7.5 with some juice to the over. There was definitely some better prices if you were looking to fade Tulane that from long ago. So I wouldn't be a buyer at the 7.5, but it's not a team that I think is going to compete for the conference title. And as you said, with a couple of the game of the year markets and probably maybe a couple looking for a few early spots to fade him, if you know what I mean. So, I think long-term this program will be just fine. Short-term, not a buyer on them this season.
Agree. And of those 4 bets that I made, conference futures, believe it or not, Tulane was not one of them. Under win total, did not. I did bet one long shot. We'll get to that team here in a minute. But Tulane, I did not bet to win the conference. I'm surprised you agree with me because there's friends of the program that actually like Tulane quite a bit. Some of the books that are out there that they had much higher numbers than I did. I worry about that early schedule when you got a new coach and you're Kansas State, Oklahoma. Tough, sneaky tough game against Louisiana, who a lot of people tend to like that team, and then you at South Florida, and then UAB. That's a tough start to the schedule after facing the FCS opponent in week 1. We'll see if they can survive that run there. I think 7-5, 8-4 is a good first season for Summerall. Yeah. I'm not seeing here what he did. Capable of doing what he did at Troy here. At least in year 1. Rice is next, a team that's, you want to talk about a steady incline. They haven't gotten to the conference champ. We're done with the conference contenders. In case you don't know, we're done there. Rice is a bowl contender, which is still saying something. But I mean, if you exclude 2020 for obvious reasons, they went from 3 wins to 4 wins to 5 wins to 6 last year. Win totals at 6.5 this year. So I actually, Bloomgren's done a really nice job rebuilding this program. Tough place. In case you don't know, they have one of the smallest enrollments in college football. It's actually a tough place to get into academically. But they probably have benefited from the UCFs, the Houstons, the Cincinnatis of the world leaving the conference. Yeah. Somebody's got to step up. Last I checked, it's 0-sum game, and Rice has benefited, I think, a little bit here, and also from some coaching continuity. Speaking of continuity, 15 returning starters, not an overwhelming schedule. In fact, Sam Houston State and Texas Southern to start. I'm not wild about – they beat Houston last year, and I'm not wild about this year's Houston team. So there's opportunity here. And then add Army and Charlotte. I'm not saying that they'll start 5-0, but I wouldn't be stunned if they started 4-1 but before the bye week. So I haven't bet the win total at 6.5. I think it's appropriately priced, but I fully expect Bryce to be back in a bowl game this year.
Yeah, you know what? We talked a little bit about in other previews about some teams that we were kind of eyeing and wanting to be a buyer on. This was one that, man, I was licking my chops in terms of when the totals were coming out and the conference futures were coming out. They kind of came out relatively fair. This was one that I was hoping to take a long price on in terms of conference winner, and it just did. I think 18-1 is trading now. I'll be honest with you. When I was like, oh, we're going to get Rice 40-1, 50-1, 60-1. Just not so much. I can't bet 18-1, especially with some of the other talent that we've already discussed that's in this league. A big time, proponent of that. We got EJ Warner. It was our guy at Temple.
There you go.
When he was, when he was in the lineup, Temple was a buy. The overs were a buy. They all cashed. When he was out of the lineup, they were an ultimate fade. I love bringing him in. Also, they bring back almost everything. And I think upgrade. Listen, I know JT Daniels. Maybe you're not. It depends on what you think of him as far as an upgrade. But I like EJ Warner a lot. I think he could be a better college player than Daniels was. I would have, at a flat 6 or that I would be in. I just cannot get there on 6.5. And having this team to go to 7, as you said, could start out very well. But then they're in the mixer for some tough games in the last 6 and less. So I don't know. I
didn't. I saw some other friends of the program were over 6.5. My numbers, my power ratings are right at like 6.5. And to bet Rice to go to 7, I'm just, I could see it. There's a lot of toss up.
Yeah.
No. Even though I like
yeah,
Warner.
no, it was just one. I was expecting a 5.5. Was going to love that. I was expecting some 40, 50, 60 to 1 in the conference. I was going to bet that. Just came a lot sharper. And so unfortunate, credit to the trading room over at this place for, putting up for FanDuel. They were on it with this Rice team because I thought there was opportunity there. Just couldn't get to it where the numbers are. So, a team that I think, if everything goes right, has that type of potential. But did you do anything with them on week 1 versus Sam Houston?
No. Are you hearing whispers?
No, I tell you,
if anything, you give me the hook, I'll take Sam Houston.
Yeah,
as we get closer, we'll talk more week 1.
Right,
but
yeah, maybe we'll have a head-to-head there for week 1.
I'll do head-to-head right there. You want to do 11
I'm not doing it 11.5, though. So somebody keep that down a little bit, and then we can do it at 10.
We'll talk totals as we get closer. I might be interested in the total.
Okay.
There. So as we get closer, again, make sure you're watching Hit the Books weekly. We are starting up our 2 shows a week starting here in a couple weeks. And we'll go every Monday, Friday. Now, obviously, when week 1 starts, we'll do Monday, Fridays, and game days. We'll do a special show. So, again, excited to be talking with the man, the myth, the legend himself, Knish, 3 times a week. And, obviously, producer extraordinaire Zach Phillips. Let's get to the next team. One that I did take a long future price on. I think a team really flying under the radar. East Carolina.
I knew that's what you were doing.
A team, I don't know, kind of nobody's talking about. Although, hey, now the win total is up to 6.5. I must not be the only one that likes this team, considering that they had you talk about bottoming out. They bottomed out last year, particularly on offense. This year's team, 13 returning stars. I kind of like the coach Houston. He's the one that originally got that James Madison program going. Then he had success. He had back-to-back bowl games here before, fell on some hard times last year. I really like the schedule. Again, this is one of the tougher, schedule conferences at the G5 level, but they have one of the easiest schedules in the entire country. Non-conference, App State and Liberty are tough, but I can tell you what isn't there. No Power 5 teams are on that schedule. And even in conference play, I don't see Memphis. Do you see Tulane? No, I don't see Tulane. South Florida on there? No, South Florida's not on there. They don't play any of that. They play one big boy at UTSA, and they get them at home. So I don't want to talk too much on this team, but I got a funny feeling we're going to be talking this team a lot because I am way higher on them, not just in certain aspects, particularly on offense, than the market. I bet let's just say this. I bet over 5.5. I would still bet over 6.5. That's how much I like East Carolina this year.
Okay. No, I didn't know you were that bullish on the. I will say, you know what? It's a team that it's funny because they brought in another Garcia. Mason Garcia was like their everything recruit. He was going to be the guy, looked incredible in practice. And he just wasn't. He was just, you would get him into the game and the guy was just terrible. And so I think, you know what, going in, they did bring in Kenton Hauser from Michigan State, who didn't have the most illustrious career at Michigan State, but I would say I think he's definitely an upgrade. Towards the end of the year, I think they were going Alex Flynn. So they brought in also a different Garcia, Jake Garcia from Missouri. So that to me is, along with everything else you mentioned in terms of the continuity, in terms of what they're bringing back, in terms of flying under the radar a little bit in the schedule, I think this team has the potential to have a major upgrade at the quarterback position if one of these guys, because they brought in, I'm pretty sure they brought in all 3. They brought in Hauser, they brought in Garcia, they brought another guy from Georgia State. So I think they needed to bring in a new, they had to switch it up the quarterback position. They obviously identified that in the transfer portal. And to me, if one of those guys hits, then I think you could be getting that type of season that you're talking about, because the quarterback play last year was what held this team back almost all season long. And if you can get an upgrade of 3, 4, 5, 6 points to the rating at the quarterback position alone, then you got something going there.
I was able to watch another guy film their spring. Not like any media, but I was able to watch quite a bit of their spring game. And
yeah,
I liked what I saw. I'll just put it that way. It was sharp contrast offensively. compared to what they threw out there last year.
Yeah.
We'll be talking East Carolina. I can tell you that won't be the last time you hear ECU out of this beautiful mouth for the 2024 season. Let's talk. We're talking optimism. Let's talk pessimistic, because I don't think that my views have changed too much here, even though I think they could go to a bowl game this year. But I don't like the next coach, Trent Dilfer. I don't like the hire. It went about as what we expected last year. But, did we have a – hold on.
We had a head-to-head on this.
Yeah, we did. That was one of the very few times I got you on them.
Yeah. What was the number?
Like Although,
I don't know. Zach would have to find the old sheet. What was the number on their total last year?
5.5.
Okay, yeah.
Is what we bet, I think. You got to remember the winners. They were few and far between last year. So we had a distance. Well, I'll be interested to see your take. This year, I will. All jokes aside, I think this year's team's better.
Yeah,
the schedule's not overly difficult. I will say this. I liked some of the things they did offensively last year. Zeno was, obviously pretty, wasn't throwing it, every pass 20 yards down the field, but I mean, completed 74% of his passes. That's, top 10 in college football. So he's back. And again, outside of at Arkansas, who I'm not wild about Arkansas, and at Memphis, I mean, at South Florida, but other than that, I mean, where's a lot of slam dunk losses on the schedule? I don't see that. So I think they got to make a bowl game this year, and I think they should make a bowl game. Now, I'm not betting over 6.5 because, again, there were still some times where Dilfer left a lot to be desired.
Yeah, I would say, sadly, we're not going to have a head-to-head because I agree with you. I think the offense and the offense was really, pretty electric in a lot of places last year. It just the defense absolutely fell off a cliff, and this was a program that was, when they're winning conference titles, that they were so known for the defense into that. So, yeah, I agree with you. So, also, some of the stuff that's come out about Dilfer and the program, you have to be concerned that there could be, an issue.
The field stuff.
Yeah, an issue. So they did bring in some transfer stuff to try. I think, double-digit guys on defense to try and shore up, along with some of the experience they had last year, shore up the defense. But it was bad. There's no other way to say it. It was bad. I mean, this was week in, week out. The defense was getting absolutely shredded. And Zeno's going to have to, the offense is going to have to carry this team again. So I think they could be better, even if you give the defense a nice bump and the offense still being very good. But 7-5 better? No, thank you. So, if to be honest with you, if anything, I would lean the other way there, just because I know the schedule's a little friendly, but that's quite the jump there.
I'm surprised. Again, if you have to bet it, I would bet under 6.5. I honestly, I'd fire him if he went 5-7.
I agree, because this should be a upper tier program in the AAC. Like, it's not. This is not a Rice. Like, this is a program that has way too much talent locally and history of winning to, especially recently before he got there.
Bill Clark showed that you can win no matter the circumstances. You can win and win big immediately there. So. Questionable hire. I still don't get that hire. Another coach in year two. In fact, we're going to have a bunch of coaches running off here in year two as far as this conference goes. North Texas. Some positive, some negative. Positive would be more on the offense side of the ball last year. Negative would be one of the worst defenses in the country. This year, man, a lot of roster turnover. Again, we're talking 50-plus new players added to the roster in year two. That worries me a little bit. What also worries me is they got a new quarterback who you're not a fan of, if I remember.
No.
And what hurts him, he's not been quarterback you want with the team in the spring. He didn't join the team until the summer. We're talking Chandler Morris, only 8 returning starters. I have not gotten there yet, but I'm not going to deep dive him too much, but I could only lean under here on North Texas, under 5.5.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. I am not a long-standing, not Chandler Morris guy. TCU, when they had their run, was it was basically, worked out beautiful for them that he got hurt in the first time when they were going to lose to Colorado. And then the TCU magic, kind of went from there once he went out. I don't see it. And this is a team, as you said, it basically they have to be electric on offense to compete and to win games. And I'm not there.
They downgraded a quarterback. Rodgers better than Morris, in my opinion.
I agree with you. And so it's a defense that I think is, I mean, they were dead last in, I think, defensive S&P plus last year. And so, yeah, you could say maybe the only way to go is up, but I think it's a defense that's still going to be brutal and an offense that's not going to be able to kind of keep up. I'm under on this win total, even at 5.5. I think there's under 5.5 plus money now at FanDuel.
Yeah, let's go. I have not bet this. I'm going to bet this. I'm waiting. This is one of the few teams I haven't bet yet, but I'm glad you agree. I'm under.
Yeah, I'm with you because to me, I think South Alabama week 1's a loss. I think Texas a loss. I think Wyoming's a potential loss in the non-conference. And there's just a lot of teams, as you're saying, and they go conference. To me, this is a 3 or 4 win team that I would be shocked if they got to 6, to be honest with you. To get plus money at under 5.5, I like that.
All right, there you guys go. A bet. So we got a few bets in. We got a conference future on UTSA at 5-1 that we like, and North Texas under. We might have a few more here in this conference. Another second-year coach, Florida Atlantic. Tom Herman in his second year. Year 1 didn't go well as expected. And then kind of a similar situation here. A lot of roster turnover yet again in year 2. Only 7 returning starters for them. I think the difference would be in this one would be, have you seen Florida Atlantic's schedule? I mean, Michigan State in week 1, but after that, and, I can say UTSA road game, Army in the non-conference, FIU non-conference, Wagner in the non-conference, unbelievably weak schedule. Army's in the conference this year. Connecticut is in the non-conference. I don't like this year's team, but I plugged that power rating in, even though, look, last year's team was bad, and this year's team doesn't have anybody coming back. I downgraded their power rating. And even plugging that in, I came to 6.5. So I know some people love the 6.5 under. I can't bet under 6.5 under at this schedule. In fact, I rank the only other schedule I have easier in the entire country is Liberty. That's saying something when you're in this conference that I think head and shoulders above Conference USA.
Yeah, I mean, and even the game week 1 against the Michigan State team.
Would you be stunned if they beat Michigan State?
No, because it's a state team that lost lost a ton didn't have that much talent to begin with, and lost a lot of it in their 4 or 5 of their starters in the spring. So if there's a team that's ripe for an upset week 1 under a total rebuild in Jonathan Smith, it would be right there. So I agree. I mean, I from the standpoint of these, I'm not going to call it a panic transfer overhaul, but when you're bringing in that much and it's not like the the type of FCS thing we've talked about, or you go from somewhere else there. It's just one of those that it feels like a lot of movement in for a year 2 with not coming back. So I agree with you on the downgrade, but just too many layups on the schedule and the easy. And Cam Fancher for Marshall. I like him better than Spencer Petras at Utah or some of the others, Jubba Purdy or some of the other ones we've talked about. So I don't hate it. It's 6 transfers at wide receiver, 6 at defensive line.
Yeah,
it's a lot, and usually that's a bad sign. But the schedule might be so soft. And Herman, you know what? For all his faults as a from Texas and that, I still think he can be a decent offensive coach. So I didn't get there on anything in terms of their futures or win total or any of that.
Yeah, I mean, I want to get to the under. It's just that schedule is so freaking easy. I agree with the Fancher. We're gonna clip something that's funnier than hell. I'm not even sure he's gonna start. There was another team that I got some clips from the spring game. That other kid that's in competition with him, I'd go with him. I don't like I know they brought him in because I think he'll start. I don't think he's any good. Let's talk Army. Who does, in my opinion, and I mistakenly, good segue. I was talking about non-conference games for Florida Atlantic. I got to get this in my head. Army's in a conference now, the American. They joined, obviously, Navy in this conference. First year for Army, and a team that, has some continuity as far as the coach has been here a while. I wonder, because the strength of schedule is going to be much more difficult. Army was playing in a lot of years a couple of FCS teams and some other, like the UMasses of the world. were filled on that schedule. That's no longer the case. Notre Dame's on the schedule. Navy's counted as a non-conference game. Air Force non-conference game. So their strength of schedule got much tougher. They're in that transition of what do we do on offense because of the new cut block rules. Well, they wanted to go more passing. Wasn't working for them last year. Then they went back to what was their bread and butter. I do like Daly as a quarterback. They got some experience on offense, but they lost a lot of their best players on defense. I sent this one to you early. I like the original under 6.5. 5.5 is where I think this should be priced at. But I got to tell you, of one team this season that has a bunch of toss-up games, I think I have like 9 of their 12 games priced at a field goal or less. So it could go either way.
Totally. And as you said, it looks like they're going – you know what? They tried to go a little outside the box, do some shotgun, do some different things. Didn't work. All indications are it's just going back to basics. We're going triple, and we're gonna try it and see. You know what? I would push the limits if I'm a military academy and say how many cut blocks are they going to call on us? If they
there you go
and try it's like the old Mark D'Antonio defenses where they just did pass interference every play and see how many flags you're going to throw. So we're going to run this and see how many you'll throw on us because what they tried, that did not work so well. So to me, I don't blame them going back to a little bit more physical triple option. They got that Kanye Udo, who's a real physical rush 5 yards a carry type guy. So
I like him.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? I think I like the idea of the back to basics. This was for I forget the old defensive coordinator. He went to UNC, but that was when Army was real when they had that defense rolling. Yeah, they had defense rolling for a couple of years. Don't think it'll be that good this year. And as you said, unfortunately for Army, joining a conference means that the Morgan States and the teams that they could handpick to run it up on Friday. They still got Lehigh week 1, but the problem is going to be, as you said, some of the toss-ups. And the fact that, they have to play, I think, a more consistent schedule and a schedule that's probably going to give their defense a lot of problems in some areas. So, I like nobody wants to hear that, but I like the number we got at 6.5. I don't even know. I wouldn't be an overbuyer on 5.5. I would say
no,
that.
I wouldn't be either.
So
in the weeds a little bit, but Navy, typically when one of these option teams come to the conference, I actually like to bet on the option team because, the teams aren't used to playing the option. Well, I mean, Navy's in the conference, so they've actually, a majority of these teams have already, accustomed to at least 1 week a year playing the option. Navy took the conference by storm originally. First couple of years, I think they made the conference championship game year 1. I don't expect Army to have the same impact here. And then we see Navy. As you're playing legit opponents week in and week out, and they're used to playing at least one game against the option each year, you don't have the same advantage. And they just recruiting wise, that they don't get the type of guy that an Air Force can get in. It's more sexy to fly planes instead of drive Jeeps and be on the front lines. So I do like Army as far as the coaching continuity, but other than that, it's kind of I don't know if this is going to work out long term for them. I like my service academies, at least Army and Navy, being independent. That's just me. I'm old school. Tulsa's next. Another second-year coach. Navy's next. Let's talk Navy. I skip over the rival there. Navy's next, who has a new offensive coordinator, a guy coming over from Mercer, who I like quite a bit. I won some money betting on Mercer last couple of years. So he was the head coach in Mercer. He comes on over and is going to run a unique. It's going to be a little bit different. He's not going to run total triple option. It's going to have some wing T principles. So it'll be another team that I'd like to see what this ends up looking like under Navy. But I don't like the head coach, though, even though I'll give him credit for making a good hire at OC. I saw the Army-Navy game and went there in person. And one thing I like about actually going to games is I focus on, like, the sidelines. What's the sideline look at like during games and plays? And they had clock management issues, getting plays in and out. It was discombobulated on that sideline. So I don't like the coach. As far as the returning experience, they actually have some 14 returning starters. I think it's a team better than last year, but I haven't done anything with the win total. In fact, it's another one where if I had to bet it now, I'd bet under 5.5.
I'm with you. I'm leery. I really don't like the coach in Newberry of year. I mean, that was about as bad a year one as you could say. And what Army did was at least, under Monken to try and salvage, some of the season was kind of realize what was happening wasn't working, and they get in, they beat Navy in that. I don't know. I don't know if, Drew Cronick can come in for Mercer in year one and fix all that it's interesting because it's a high variance, it could come in and improve, and you get a little bit of a bump. I'm leaning the other way though. I would lean with the under 5.5 too. And I don't think the defense will be anywhere near good enough. I mean, they should, you start with Bucknell and Temple, but after that, you're going through the ring a little bit.
There might be only one other game they're favored in, Charlotte at home. That's it.
Yeah. Because you've got
where are the 6 wins? Again,
I don't know.
We might come back to this. Where are the 6 wins? 2-0 start. Are they going to get 4 more? I don't see it.
I don't see it either, because I don't think this offense will be able to keep up with anybody. And they're going to play some. They're just going to play some offenses in this conference. I mean, you've got Memphis, you've got UAB, you've got Notre Dame, you've got Rice, who we talked about. Then you've got South Florida, Tulane, ECU.
Let's just walk through it. 2-0. Let's give them Charlotte. Hell, let's give them Army, even though I don't think either one of those are slam dunks. Hell, it's Navy. They'll upset somebody. There's 5. Where is the 6th win?
I don't know. I like it. I'm with you on under 5.5. I just don't. I don't see it.
Even though it's juiced under a little bit, let's go under 5.5. All right, like it. Under, love it. We got some bets going here. Under 5.5 on Navy, and that's giving them the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
Another second-year coach, Tulsa, Kevin Wilson, I should say, who did a decent job. I know he's doing a really good job in recruiting classes, but a little too young for them to make a significant difference. Only 8 returning starters for them. That's kind of, where are they at as a program, trying to find themselves. I think they just got to give him some patience. I think he's a good offensive mind. It's, not a recruiting hotbed, even though he's been able to recruit there. There's some things that I liked. Last year, I was watching Tulsa East Carolina game. I thought both teams were fighting tooth and nail in the finale. The game didn't mean anything for either one, but I like the fight in both teams. This one, my numbers are calling for over 4.5. I haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah, I'm with you. I just, for this to really function, I like Kevin Wilson and some of the things that he's done in his career, and it's almost like he reminds me of a little early, Philip Montgomery era, when Montgomery had it kind of rolling before it fell apart there at the end. I just don't like who they have at the quarterback position. They brought in Cooper Leggis from Utah State. Don't like him. They've got, Cardell Williams and from Kirk Francis last year.
The Francis kid's all right, but he's not going to wow you physically.
I agree with you. I just don't think he has the requisite and as you said, he's got the recruiting coming in. So it feels like it's going to go. Feels like they win a little bit more. We're going to try and build the program, then transfer everybody in a little bit, which long term, as long as they're patient, I think should be okay. I just don't see it this year. He's the type of guy you have to have a quarterback in this system to work, because I don't think the defense will be anywhere near good enough, especially with some of the offenses that they're going to play in this year to kind of really be competitive. So I'm not there with you either. I know as you said, just from a number standpoint, the 4.5 might be a little low, but I don't love this.
They don't have a lot of slam dunk wins outside of Northwestern State.
Yeah, and I don't think that the team itself is going to have the offensive identity to be able to run away from some of these teams. So, it's probably a pass for me. I can't get there on this over. I don't see it. Next year would be maybe a make or break year, as you're talking about getting some in. I'm surprised they didn't get a little bit more aggressive in trying to get people in, especially on offense for this year, because what I see on the roster right now just isn't enough.
Tell me if you heard this before. A second-year coach is our next team, Charlotte Bitpoji, who was part of that Michigan machine for a couple years there before heading over to Charlotte last year. I like him. He's quite a character, to say the least. Another team, tough to to get a feel for them. Transfer portal heavy, unlike Tulsa. They've hit the portal hard each of the last couple of years. They get the Florida kid, Brown, at quarterback. We'll see. It's certainly an upgrade over what they had.
Yeah.
They had one kid that couldn't throw, and then they had another kid that was a walk-on, Trexler Ivy kid. So they'll get an upgrade at quarterback. The thing I don't like, schedule, man. Outside of Gardner-Webb, I'm not sure that they're favored in any other game. So I like Biff Poggi. I like that he's brought in a lot of Power 5 kids. If they hit, then okay, then we can look back on it and say, why didn't I bet over 3.5? I'm not there. When I got a team that's not used to winning, and I look at the schedule and I only got one win on it, where are the 3 other wins right now? I don't see them.
Yeah, I mean, Biff Poggi, I will say he was maybe the biggest. There was a great story on them in the Athletic about turning around the culture at Michigan under Harbaugh. I don't think Harbaugh survives the downslope he had at Michigan without Biff Poggi on the staff. He might have been his most important hire ever, and so I do think he can make this work at Charlotte. I'm with you though. It was so bad year one, and I know he had kind of one cycle of transfer portal, bringing in a lot of ex Power 5 guys. He did it again. They just it was so bad last year at quarterback. Maybe Max Brown can give them a leap. As you're saying, just on the numbers, they're probably a dog in 10 or 11 of these games. So to bet over 3.5 juiced.
Yeah.
I can't get that. To me, that it doesn't compute. So maybe the ceiling of this team is just going to be better, and they're able to get there. And Biff, kind of wows. And I know they went 3-9 last year, but I don't, as you said, it's going to be rough for them to get to 4 wins just based off what they're having to go up against. So I can't get there, but I'll be rooting for him. I think he's a good coach and can get this program eventually over the hump. Just numerically, I don't see it from where it's at now.
Yeah, interesting fella. I mean, a story. I agree with you. I'm glad you brought up that athletic story. If you just want general football stories, if you're a football fan or even a life fan, what he did in the inner cities in Baltimore. Yep. I remember watching him. He was, ESPN, had a couple of his games on Friday nights, him with the sleeves off and stuff. It was a good read. So look that story up. I will say I know this is not going to move the needle as far as, I can't wait to watch this game. I think week 1 against James Madison, I'm going to learn a lot about both of those teams.
Very good point.
Because there's a lot of uncertainty about both. Even though I love Chesney, they lost that entire roster. So I'm going to learn a lot about whether I'm right about Charlotte or wrong. And same with James Madison. I think I'm going to know in week 1 with that game. I bet a little Charlotte in that game when there was when they were getting doubles there. So it's not like I'm way down on Charlotte. Last team I'm really down on. And we'll wrap this up, unfortunately, with a negative. Temple. I'm not big on laying huge juice. I told you that's the one to bet when it was 3.5. It's moved to full win. You heard me on different shows talk about the importance of a half win or a win when the total's so low. I'm here to tell you that under 2.5 is still good with Temple as far as I'm concerned. Have at least a 5-point underdog in every game. I don't like anything that they got coming back. Warner, we already mentioned earlier in this preview, is off the rice. Their only redeeming player, in my opinion. Man, they got a defensive end that's pretty good. But outside of that, 7 returning starters, a coach that's not only in the hot seat, but this is it. Could be a lame duck situation, especially when you look at who they start with. I just don't see any redeeming factors for this team. I could see an 0-12 type of season for Temple this year.
I'm with – I can't point to one thing in terms of the direction of the program, what they brought back. Their 2 best players, Warner and their tackle, both left. They went heavy JUCO route, which in this day and age I don't think is a fix anymore. I don't think this. I would have to worry about where this program is financially. Because they went from a disastrous hire in Rod Carey where everything just fell apart to Stan Drayton, which looks miserable. I'm with you. I still think, I know we bet some under 3.5. I still think under 2.5 is good. I don't know where this team gets 3 wins at. And I'm not saying
where they at? Are we doing best bet? I'm okay with under 2.5.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, let's do it. Under 2.5 best bet.
I mean, maybe give them, I don't know, a split between Army and Navy. If I give them Utah.
That's tough to do, man. Even there.
I don't know. I don't know where the wins are going to come. This team was only competitive in games last year when Warner was throwing for like 400 yards and like looking like, one of the better G5 quarterback. And he's gone. When they had no Warner, this team was getting blasted. The defense had fallen off a cliff. They don't have a quarterback and they don't have they did not replace Warner with any functional quarterback. And their best player in offense, their left tackle, transferred out. So who's left? And I don't think they had a receiver that left too. I think it was a pretty good name this gave me last year, but I don't see where it's at with this program. I think Drayton's gone, and it's a 1-11 type of year.
And we even seen guys like myself laying it in week 1 against them. And guys that I don't like laying points, but I laid 37.5, 39.5. It don't matter against Oklahoma. Oklahoma will probably beat them by 50, 60 points. So this could be the worst team in college football this year. If it wasn't for, uncertainty with Kennesaw State coming over and that, I would be slamming my fist on the table. This is the worst team in college football this year. I might have the worst record because, man, I just don't see it. So under 2.5. There we go. So under 2.5 Temple.
Yep.
We got that in pocket. Well, wow, a lot of unders. I like it. That's right. I know where we're rolling. Under 5.5 Navy. Under 5.5 North Texas. For those that like to bet a little to win a lot. 5-1 UTSA Conference Future. Am I missing something? Those are 4. That's pretty good, Joe.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think we got a couple, and again, just because we bet maybe we might have not gotten to the over on some of those teams, but there's a top half of the teams that we were pretty bullish on. I know with you with East Carolina, I'm even, bullish on, Rice and say just you got to bet the numbers, not that, not just because. And I think it's a great example of what we preach on the program of you might have been real bullish on East Carolina. I might have been real bullish on Rice at the numbers that we're looking at currently. You don't just make a bet to make a bet, even if you're bullish on a team. There were, there were numbers maybe at some time ago that those were bettable, just not where they're at currently. But those unders, I think that we gave out, I think those are more good.
And we still gave out 4 bets that we like. And if you want more bets, obviously you can tune into us Monday. That's early enough in the week to get bets. Friday, we're going to give you some late week bets. Keep in mind, different derivative markets like first halves and whatnot open up. Plus, we're going to have some fun with some, parlays that we particularly like. That'll have some correlation. And then Saturdays, we're going to do some different stuff with games that are up as far as second halves and whatnot that we're seeing. So there will be stuff that it won't be always, I got it at this number, I got it at that number. We will be doing stuff off the fly with the weekly show sponsored by FanDuel. That'll wrap up this G5 series of previewing the upcoming 2024 season as far as the American goes. For the man, the myth, the legend himself, Joey Knish. For producer extraordinaire Zach Phillips, I'm merely Brad Powers. You just watched Hit the Books, part of the Hammer Betting Network.